Hello and welcome to the 7.1 through 7.3 quiz review video where I don't want you to forget you need to write everything, even the problems. This video is brought to you by Miss Rickfelder, myself, and my 6th period class. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, so as you can see here, what I've done is I've made a screenshot of what the quiz is going to look like. I've, of course, blanked out all of the problems and all of the pertinent information, but I wanted you to be able to see the setup of the quiz. So the first part of the quiz, sorry about that, is going to look like this. You want to write the instructions here. So you want to write the instructions here and then draw a bubble that says 7.1. That's because these problems come from 7.1 in the chapter, and you want to remember that when you're working through these problems, so remember for these problems, this is not necessarily about finding the answer. You will write the answer on the line, but these problems are about the process. So the problem will look like this. X plus 5 equals 16, and then they give you solution choices, 10, 11, and 12. All right, so what you're going to do first, as soon as you see this problem where it says to identify the solution of each equation from the list given and show your work for each possible solution, notice the each and the each. That should tip you off that you need to write this 3 times. So immediately I have written x plus 5 equals 16 3 times across the top of my paper. From there, you want to substitute 10 plus 5 equals 16 because 10 is my first possible answer choice. After I've substituted the 10 plus 5 equals 16, then I'm going to add 10 plus 5 on the left-hand side. Notice I don't change anything on the right-hand side. So 15 is not equal to 16, so that's why I draw the little slash through the equal sign. Now we're going to do the same thing for 11 and 12. So now we have 11 plus 5 equals 16, and 16 does in fact equal 16, so that means our answer is going to be 11. Now don't make the mistake and write 16 just because you're used to seeing the 16 because that was at the end of the problem. Right now would be a good time for you to write the answer on the answer line if you were taking this on the quiz. You can't stop here even though you know the answer is 11. You need to complete the last problem, which will now say 12 plus 5 equals 16. And 12 plus 5 is actually 17, and 17 is not equal to 16. So then on the answer line, you would write x is equal to 11, like you see here. All right, so now you'll see the next problem. I know the problem looks long, but you are going to want to write the problem on your paper. All right, so the problem says Tia went shopping and bought a $10 bracelet, $20 necklace, $5 earrings, and a $12 hat. Write and solve an equation to find how much Tia gave the cashier if she received $3 in change. So this problem is similar to the problem that we had with Alejandra buying the birthday gift materials. So what you would want to do in this problem is first you want to annotate it. So you want to circle the $10, the $5, the $20, and the $12. Now notice it just says to write and solve an equation. It will say the same thing on the test or quiz, or on the quiz rather. So you want to make sure that you are using the correct operation, addition or subtraction. So the first thing that you need to do is find out how much money was actually spent. So you want to add up the 20, 10, 5, and 12. So as you can see in the bottom left of my paper, I've written in yellow the $47. I've added everything up. The reason you need to do this is so that you can set up the equation, because I want you to notice that it says to write and solve an equation to find how much Tia gave the cashier. So you want to keep in mind that this will have 2 lines on the quiz. So you'll have 1 line for the equation and 1 line for the answer. Remember, an equation has to have a variable in it, and it also cannot have the variable alone already. That would mean that you've already solved the problem. So now, what are we going to do with the $47? Well, you need to think about it and identify first what's going to go on the side with the totals. If you look here at the $3 and change, that's the one that's all alone. So that's what she got back. So something, something, something over here on the left is going to equal $3. That's what she got back. So now we're going to say, okay, we started with a certain amount of money, and then we subtracted the $47, and then we were left with $3 and change. So this would be the first part of my answer right here. So on the answer line, I would write m minus 47 equals 3. So now I'm going to go to the next screen so that we can show you the work to solve the equation. On this screen, we're going to go ahead and write our m minus 47 equals 3, which we got from the previous screen. M minus 47 equals 3. And then we're going to start to solve the equation. So we want to ask ourselves, what's the variable? The variable is m. What's being done to the variable? 47 is being subtracted from it. And then remember that magic question, how do you undo subtracting 47? Well, you would add 47 to both sides. So you want to make sure that you add 47 to both sides and cross that out, and you're left with 47 plus 3 gives you $50. So what that means is that the money that Tia started shopping with was $50. So you want to go ahead and write right here, it would be, hold on one second, M equals $50. So this would be the answer that would go on your second line. Now, you would also want to make sure to check your answer. So back here, you're going to see that you should put in the $50 to your problem. So you'll start with the original, M minus 47 equals 3. Then you're going to substitute and solve. So now you can see where I've substituted the 50 in for the M, subtracted 47, and I do get 3 on both sides. Notice how this lesson, or this particular example, ties in with lesson 1. So if you remember on the first question or the first example in this quiz review, you were doing this. You were plugging in different possible solutions to find out which solution was correct. That was setting you up to be able to check your work. So you want to make sure that you're checking your work on every single one of these problems. There's no reason at all why you should not get 100% on the quiz. All right, so now let's go ahead and go on to the next problem. You see that Tim has 39 toy cars. This is 8 more cars than Joe. Write and solve an addition equation to find the number of cars Joe has. So let's go ahead and annotate the problem. Tim has 39 toy cars. Remember in class when I said if the sentence is all by itself in the very beginning, chances are that's the number that's going to go on the side of the equal sign by itself. So let's go ahead and just write that right now while we're trying to work through this. So again, it's just because Tim has 39 toy cars, period. This isn't being compared to anything. This isn't, taking anything away from it. It's 39 cars, so you know that for sure. Now you want to work on the other side of the equation. It says this is, so the 39 is, 8 more cars than Joe. 8 more cars than what? Than Joe. So you want to make sure that you set up your equation. And normally I wouldn't use J for my variable, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now. So J has a certain amount of cars. Okay. All right. So you have J for the number of cars that Joe has plus 8 is going to equal the 39. So notice too that it said to write an addition equation. So that's how you know you're on the right track as well. So this would actually be the first part of your answer, or your equation rather. Let me go ahead and, so I'm going to put a box around that because there will be again 2 lines for this. So J plus 8 equals 39. So now I'm going to go to the next slide so that we can write J plus 38 equals, oh just kidding, J plus 8 equals 39. All right, now that we have the problem, we just need to solve it. So J is going to be the variable. What's being done to the variable? 8 is being added to J. So to undo adding 8, remember you have to subtract 8 from each side. So you're going to cross that out, and then you are left 39 minus 8 is going to be 31. So now you know that Joe has 31 cars. Put a box around that. You can even add that to your previous answer. Joe equals 31. Perfect. All right, so now the last thing that you need to do is to make sure that you are checking your answer. All right, so to do the check, you want to make sure that you start with your original problem. All right, so as you can see here, I've checked the work. You want to start with your original problem. That's what I've written in white. Then in turquoise, I have 31 plus 8 equals 39. Remember, I got the 31 from right here, which is my answer. That's why I put it right there where the 31 is. And then 31 plus 8 is in fact 39, so now I know that my answer checks out. And again, this ties in, the check ties into lesson 7.1. This is a problem that a lot of students struggled with on the mid-chapter check as well as on the subtraction pages in section 7.3. The problem says if x minus 9 equals 12, what is the value of x plus 2? All right, so the first thing that you need to do, this is a 2-part problem. The first part is going to be to solve x minus 9 equals 12. So you need to break it down into 2 steps. So x is the variable. What's being done to the variable? 9 is being subtracted from it. So that means that you want to undo it by adding 9 to both sides. So that crosses out. 12 plus 9 should give you 21. So now that you know that x is equal to 21, you can solve the next problem. So if you look at the next problem, I'm going to outline it in pink. It says, what is the value of x plus 2? So now since we know the value of x is 21, we can say that 21 plus 2 is equal to 23. So our final answer for this problem is going to be 23. Please don't make the mistake and write x equals 23, because if you remember, x is not equal to 23. X is equal to 21, and then we plugged it into the second problem to get 23. All right, so now we want to go on to the next problem. It says an iPad costs $499. This is $125 less than a dirt bike. less than, oops, hold on one second. All right, now I fixed it. This is $125 less than a dirt bike. Write and solve a subtraction equation. Whoops. Write and solve a subtraction equation, so subtraction equation, to find the cost of the dirt bike. So remember, you're solving for the dirt bike. All right, so the first thing that we want to do, first I annotated the bottom of the problem. Then I want to look and see, okay, an iPad costs $4.99, and this is $125 less than a dirt bike. So first we can set up the total, because we know that the total is going to be $4.99. Because remember, there's that sentence stuck at the very beginning of the problem again that really is just kind of hanging out there. It doesn't really have anything that it's tying to. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to be equals $4.99. So that $4.99 is $125 less than, remember, less than, more than, greater than, fewer than, you have to switch the order. So it's going to be less than a dirt bike. Well, a good letter to use for dirt bike would be D. So now we're going to have D, which is going to stand for the cost of the dirt bike, minus, because it was less than, 125 equals $4.99. So that is going to be the first part of your problem. You need to have the equation, and this is it. From here, you're going to want to solve the equation. So I'm going to try and squeeze it in on this screen. So we have D minus 125 equals $4.99. So the first thing I say is, okay, it looks like D is my variable and 125 is being subtracted from it. So I need to add 125 to undo that. So I'm going to add 125 to both sides. So now, once you've added $4.99 plus 125, you should get your answer, which is D equals $624. So D equals $624. And remember, that's the cost of the dirt bike. Now, you'll also want to make sure that you plug that answer into your original equation to check it. All right, so down here in the bottom left, you see that I've written the word check and then the original problem. I know we're kind of squishing it here, but all you need to do is go ahead and substitute your 624 minus 125 equals, and I'm going to run into my answer, that's okay, $4.99. And then you want to actually do the addition or subtraction. So in this case, it would be 624 minus 125. And you do, in fact, get $4.99 equals $4.99. And so your answer is correct. All right, so let's go ahead and see what's next. The next set of problems are all going to be straight, solve each equation, check your solutions. You must show each step. So you want to make sure that you're showing each step, that's hard to say, involved with the problem. So what that means is, let's look at this first problem. It's x plus 1/8 equals 6/8. You're going to see fractions, decimals, mixed numbers, so you want to make sure that you know the process, because if you don't know the process, if you aren't familiar with saying, okay, what's the variable, what's being done, how do I undo it, and then what your answer is, you're not going to be able to complete the questions on the quiz. So you want to make sure that you actually know the process. So for this particular problem, the variable is x. What's being done to the variable, you ask? 1/8 is being added to it. So in order to undo adding 1/8, we are going to subtract 1/8 from each side. And I realize this looks kind of funky doing this with fractions, but it is what it is. You just want to set them up that way. Then because I have a common denominator of 8, I can literally just subtract 6 minus 1, which will give me 5, and I get 5/8. So my answer is going to be x equals 5/8, and I'm going to put a box around it. Please make sure, on your quiz, actually, you'll have a line, so it's not necessarily as important. But on your worksheets and your classwork, it's really important that you put a box around your answer, because there's so much work and then your check that I need to be able to know where your answer is. So now off to the right, you just want to do the check. And as you can see off to the right, I went ahead and wrote the original problem in white. Then I substituted my answer, which was 5/8, for the x. And then I solved. 5 plus 1 is 6, so I found out that 6/8 is in fact equal to 6/8. So for this next problem, you can see it's 22 equals x minus 12. So you want to ask yourself, what is being done to x? Or first, x is the variable, it's on the right-hand side. Okay, so you want to first identify that the variable is x, it's on the right-hand side. I still have a few people who aren't really sure what they need to subtract. Some who are trying to add or subtract the 22 and the 12. Keep in mind that 22 is really nothing. He's just a tag along, he's a follow along. So what you really need to look at is the x, what's being done to x. 12 is being added to x. So that means to undo that, we need to subtract 12 from each side. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. And I get my answer, which is going to be 10 equals x. You don't need to flip-flop that around, just leave it as it is. You want to put a box around it, but on your quiz you'll have a line for it, so you want to put that on the line. and then you want to complete your check for it. So notice I've started with my original problem. On this line, I substituted the 10 that I got from right here in my answer over here for the x, so I go ahead and put that 10 in there, and then I solve. 22, which I never touch, equals, and then 10 plus 12 is in fact 22, so that is correct. Again, there are going to be decimals, fractions, mixed numbers, everything on this quiz, so you want to make sure that you understand the process. All right, for the next problem, it's x minus 6/7 equals 1/7. So first, and I know that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to see the fractions, you just want to take it one step at a time. What is my variable? My variable is x. What's being done to x? X is having 6/7 is being subtracted from x. So how do you undo subtracting 6/7? Well, you add, because that's the opposite, 6/7. And you need to add 6/7 to both sides. So then we're going to cross that out because that was the whole purpose of that. And then we get our answer, which is 7/7. This brings me to a very, very good point. You need to remember all the time to give me a simplified answer. For 7/7, what that looks like is x equals 1. Remember, when you have a whole number, when you have two numbers, one number over the same number, that means it's a whole number. So you just want to remember to simplify. Don't give me 7/7 because you'll lose the point for the answer. Then off to the right, you want to go ahead and check. When you check, it's okay if you use 7/7. You definitely want to do that so that it makes sense when you're checking both sides. So you can see here that I've written the original problem in white. You need to do the same thing. And I've substituted 7/7 in for x. And I've said 7 minus 6 is in fact 1 over 7 still, so 1/7 is equal to 1/7. The next problem you see here is going to be x plus 2.7 equals 5.2. So again, you're going to ask yourself what's being done to the variable. The 2.7 is being added to it. How do I undo that? I undo it with subtracting 2.7 from both sides. Don't want to forget when you're subtracting and adding with decimals to make sure to line your decimal up, and if you happen to have a whole number, that decimal goes on the far right side of the number. For this one, we were lucky. The decimals lined up perfectly anyway, so we have x equals 2.5, and then we're going to put a box around our answer. You would also put your answer on the line, and then we need to plug it back in to check. Notice I always start with the original problem, and I always work out to the right. I tell you that you can work out to the right or left, but please don't work below it. So as you can see here, I went ahead and wrote the original problem. I've substituted 2.5 in for my x, and then when I add those together, I in fact do get 5.2 equals 5.2. So we're going to write 5.2 equals 5.2, and our problem is checked. Here we see x minus 3.9 equals 12. So again, don't be intimidated because one has a decimal and one does not. You just want to ask yourself, what's the variable? The variable is x. What's being done to the variable? 3.9 is being subtracted from it. How do I undo subtracting 3.9? Well, that's easy. I just add 3.9 to both sides. This is the part where it's tricky. I want you to see what I'm putting in pink. I put a decimal point there in pink because I need to make sure when I add 3.9 to the 12 that I line my decimals up correctly. Please, please, please don't forget to do that. So adding in pink would be like saying 12.0. So I'm going to cross out the minus 3.9 plus 3.9. Then you can see me setting up the subtraction problem. 10 minus 9 is going to give me 1. My decimal point comes down right here. Then we have 11, 10, 9, 8. So it's going to be 8 and then 0 over there. So now I found out that my answer is x equals 8.1. So you're going to put x equals 8.1, put a box around it. And now remember, and now I'm going to do this one a little bit off to the side and to the right. I really don't want it to be underneath, so I want to make sure you're not doing it underneath. I just kind of ran out of room on my screen here. I just noticed, and do you know where I noticed? I'm not erasing this from my screen, and I'm not going back to record over this portion for a reason. I want you to notice what just happened. So some of you probably already noticed, but in the problem, I went ahead and added 3.9 on the left side, but then on the right side, I actually started to subtract. So I came up with my answer of 8.1. But then when I did my original, which is right here, and then when I went to substitute right here, I realized, wait a second, 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 isn't anywhere near 12. So I realized what my mistake was. This is the importance of checking your work. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this now, and I would like you to do the same, but I need you to understand there's a reason why I didn't edit that out of my video. I wanted to make sure that you saw that I recognized that there was a problem, but I didn't recognize that there was a problem until I went to check my solution. That is truly checking your solution. That's what you need to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this up here at the top. All right, so now we have our nice, pretty fresh problem again. And we're going to go, okay, 0 plus 9 is 9. 3 plus 2 is 5, and 1 is 15. So now my new and correct answer is x equals 15.9. And again, I want you to know that this was a teachable moment because I did use the check feature and I did actually check my work. So now you're going to go ahead and write your original problem, then you're going to substitute your answer in there. So I got 15.9 minus 3.9 equals 12. And I can look and see that the 0.9s are going to cancel each other out, and then I just have 15 minus 3, which is in fact 12. So I have answered my question and put a check mark there. All right, so we are nearing the finish line, boys and girls. Right now we have x plus 1/8 equals 7/8. So you want to remember, I'm showing you this problem because you want to remember to always simplify. So what's the variable? It's x. What's being done to x? 1/8 is being added to it. So to undo that, I'm going to subtract 1/8 from each side. So when I do that, you can see that I'm going to get 7 minus 1 is 6, so I'm going to get 6/8. Before you write that as your answer, you need to realize that 6 over 8 is not in its simplest form. So you need to divide by 2, and you get 3/4. This is crucial. There are problems that this applies to on the test. So x is equal to 3/4. Then you put that in a box. This is also very important. You need to listen to how I'm asking you to do the check. When you go to do the check feature, you do need to copy the original problem, x plus 1/8 equals 7/8. However, when you go to substitute in, when you go to put in your substitution point to check to see if it's right, it's very important that you use the 6/8. So even though you simplified for your final answer, to check it, you need to use the 6/8. 6/8 plus 1/8 equals 7/8. The reason you're doing this is so that it makes sense because 6 plus 1 is in fact 7. So now I know that 7/8 is equal to 7/8. Check. So now I know this is how you're all feeling right about now, and I know that you can do it. Study hard, make sure that you've done all your homework, and also if you did not get a chance to watch the 7.4 video, you want to make sure that you watch that this evening, and it was the 7.4 lesson, not the additional problems. So it should be, I believe, a 23-minute video. That was homework from last night though, so if you did last night's homework, then you're all good and you can just focus on studying for your quiz tomorrow. Good luck, and I will see you soon. I almost thought I was done. Beep, beep, just kidding. So one extra thing you just want to remember, make sure that you've written everything, and this will be collected tomorrow before your quiz. Excellent.